I was watching an interview this morning and it finally clicked. What First Assistant U.S. Attorney Neil Floyd out of Washington said explains why we're having so many of these immigration problems. Listen to this for a second, because this is the part nobody's explaining. Check it out.
What I do care about is when someone has come back 2 or 3 times, they've got a criminal history, and they get picked up by King County, Snohomish County, and I know they're getting ready to get released back out on the street. If I intercede with this criminal arrest warrant, then we can take them into the immigration process, figure out if they're eligible for anything that would allow them to remain here, and if not, then they get removed. I got 2 more coming right now. I mean, one of them, the guy was in 2008 charged with rape of a child in the 2nd degree. Was out, actually got transferred to immigration, got removed, came back to the United States sometime or another, we don't know when, and in 2024 he finally gets picked up by the state authorities and then gets sentenced. He gets sentenced, but what they did is it's been so long now, they allowed him to plead to a lesser included of, I don't remember the charge, but he got sentenced to 3 months. So with a 3-month sentence, you're not going to go to the Department of Corrections.
Right.
You're going to stay in the local jail, which means that person, when they're done, is going to get released. The state requires you to release them.
They're not calling ICE.
No, they're not calling ICE. They're required to release them. But fortunately, we got wind of it, and now we issue the 1326 arrest warrant. So when they're done, they have to come to the federal system. Otherwise, that child molester would have been back out on the street. Child molester that's been removed before would have been back out on the street.
Brandi Kruse, she's the one doing the interview right there. She is an independent journalist out of the state of Washington, and I really want to give her props. She does an excellent job of exposing what I think of as the woke policies of her state. When I tuned in this morning, I really knew this topic nailed my thoughts on immigration. I've really been trying to put this into words, and I ended up making a little civic graphic. I like making little graphics, and I think this will explain what Attorney Neil Floyd was saying. So take a look. Why ICE ends up in neighborhoods. In the top left, you will see restricted cooperation. So in a state like Washington, when an arrest happens of an illegal immigrant, they do not notify ICE. They do not share data with ICE. And depending on the policies and the crime, they will release that illegal immigrant back into the community. Now, when you are dealing with a targeted cooperation, when an arrest happens, ICE is notified, there is a custody transfer, and the removal process will begin. So you've got restricted cooperation, basically states not working with ICE, and then you have targeted cooperation, states working with ICE. In the interview clip you just heard, Neil Floyd's office got wind of the illegal immigrants' release and had to issue a federal warrant just to step in because the state wasn't going to hand him over. So what does that mean for us as American citizens? You have arrests happening, but some states aren't cooperating with federal agencies. So instead of handing people off, they're getting released back into the communities. And in some cases, you're seeing situations like what happened recently in Chicago, the murder of Sheridan Gorman, or what happened recently in Virginia with the murder of Stephanie Mintar. Both of these women were killed allegedly by illegal immigrants who should not have been in the country. So my question is, if these communities are releasing these criminals because of their policies and not working with the federal government, whose fault is it really when these crimes happen? In my opinion, these states and cities, they bear some of the responsibilities of what's happening. That enforcement doesn't stop just because a state doesn't work with the federal government. Enforcement actually shifts, and the federal government has to do things differently, and sometimes that causes even more clashes. Let's get into this next clip.
The community of the state of Washington only hears the good news story about the Keep Washington Working Act. Oh, great, we're helping people, we're keeping these people from being removed. No one's telling the other story about how many crimes are committed by people that were detained by state officials, released, and they go out and commit another crime.
Yeah.
And that's when we get them. That second crime or third crime or fourth crime would not have been would not have been committed. There would not have been another victim if they'd have turned him over after the first one. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to build the statistics in the story to tell them.
And it seems like that.
So you hear what Attorney Floyd said there. I feel like a lot of people aren't getting the whole story about some of these sanctuary policies and how they are creating the very situations that are being blamed on ICE instead of state officials taking and shouldering some of that blame themselves. And Washington actually has a law, I mentioned it early, Keep Washington Working Act, and that law actually limits how the local agencies can work with ICE. So when you hear Mr. Floyd say that they don't have access, that's not random. That's an actual policy. So this is a real opinion moment for me, what I'm about to say. But whether or not you like President Trump shouldn't be an issue. The bottom line is he was elected in large part because of the illegal immigration problem in our country. And I also think he was elected because Democrat politicians and the mainstream media refused to care about angel moms. All right. Now, angel moms, if you don't know what that means, those are women who have lost children to crimes committed by illegal immigrants. Now, let that sink in. They have lost children due to crimes committed by illegal immigrants. These are people who should not be in our country. They're here illegally, and these women have lost their children because of it. And the mainstream media and Democrats, in my opinion, did not address this during the last election cycle, and they are still not addressing this. And this is where my bleeding heart comes in. I get torn up, and I have spent quite a bit of time crying over these stories with the angel moms. And I believe if we did not have these sanctuary policies, there wouldn't be a lot of angel moms out there. And that's just my opinion, but pretty sure it's a valid one. Bleeding Heart MAGA here. I hope you enjoyed the video. It is an issue that is close to my heart, so there will be more videos on it. Please like, subscribe, and comment. This is a new channel. I really appreciate it. It will help me grow, and I will see you on the next one.